Hey guys, and welcome to part 2 of this Photoshop Classroom kind of project. So in part 1, we discussed how to understand resolution, what is RGB, CMYK and what they're used for, what is DPI and what they're used for. So basically we talked about all the little things that you need to learn before you start Photoshop and understanding how a software that is pixel based works. Now, we also talked about how to select certain things as well. But for this classroom, in part 2, we're going to talk about more advanced selection tools and how to import images inside of Photoshop. So let's get started here. I have a fresh piece of paper, a 1920 by 1080 resolution white background. And the first thing I usually do when I step into Photoshop is I look at my layers, so right here, and I have my background. So typically my first layer is locked. I always unlock it. So by unlocking it, I can go here, double click on it, and say OK. And now it's unlocked. That's my step number 1. Number 2, how do you import images from Google, from pictures that you have already on your computer? How do I get them into Photoshop? There's 2 ways to do this. So the first way is I go into File, top left, right here, Open, and I can just select any image I want. So I'm going to take my portrait right here, double click on it, and 2 things will happen. 1, it will open a new paper inside of Photoshop. So a new composition if you want. I have my portrait JPEG right here, and I have the original one that I created right here. So by clicking on them, I can switch between them. Now, each one has its own layers, its own formats and everything. So let's say I want to grab this portrait and take it into the original one. So what I'm going to do here is first of all unlock the layer by double clicking on it. Select my rectangular marquee tool right here. Taking from the top left of the image, selecting all the way to the bottom right. Then pressing V on my keyboard, or I select the move tool right here, click and drag, while still holding my left click mouse button down. I do not release it, and I drag all the way to here. Automatically Photoshop will switch, and I just stick back my mouse to the middle. I still haven't released my mouse button, and now I can release and get the picture into this composition. Okay, so of course you're gonna get a new layer right here, and I can just rename it by double clicking on it and saying this is the portrait image. Enter. There you go. So that's one way of getting it. Now, a few things you have to understand about Photoshop is that typically we don't take low resolution images and put them into high resolution papers. So, excuse me. So for example, I cannot take a picture from Google that is a 500 resolution by 500 resolution square and put it on a 1920 by 1080 resolution image. It will distort and ruin the pixels of that specific picture. You can never take a small resolution image, so a low resolution image, and scale it up to fit a high resolution image. It's very bad. You will get pixelization such as this. All of these little squares, you will get plenty of them at a very low detail amount. So never do that. That's a rule inside of Photoshop. So the second way I can import an image inside of my composition is very simple. I can open my File Explorer. So let me drag it in front of you right here. So I have my File Explorer open. I go to my desktop. I can just take any image I have here, so the portrait, click and drag into my composition and release. And I get the image. Now, 2 things will happen here. 1, I can scale this up by using the small little squares. So typically I prefer the ones on the corners. I can uniformly scale this image, so I'm going to scale it up. There we go. And second thing that happens is that over here on the right side, if I press enter to set the image, I will get a small little icon that I did not have before. This small little icon determines that this layer is a smart object. To understand very simply what a smart object does is that it allows you to scale up and down the picture itself, the layer itself, without losing too much quality with the scales. So if I have a low resolution image and it's a smart object, I can manipulate it a little bit higher to fit without losing too much quality. While the other way of putting it into a new paper, selecting that object and putting it into my composition, then stretching it out will ruin the pixels depending on the resolution. So using smart objects is a very quick way to preserve that quality that you're looking for. Now, something you have to do, once I'm done with my picture, once it's set and I press enter on it, and I'm happy with the way it looks, I can just right click on here, go up, sorry, I have to right click on the layer, sorry, go up to rasterize layer. What rasterization does is that it allows the graphic card in your computer, the hardware, to calculate all the pixels inside of that image and that layer to set it to the correct resolution and rasterize. And now it's a proper layer. You don't get the small little smart object icon next to it. So these are very important steps that you have to understand inside of Photoshop. Every time I select my File Explorer tool and I grab it and put it into Photoshop, it will be a smart object. So you always have to rasterize it. Make it kind of a checklist. When you're working in Photoshop or any kind of other software, there's always small little checklists that you have to go through. So one, I open Photoshop. Checklist number one, I have to unlock the first layer. Done. Checklist number two, when I upload or import any image that I want from my File Explorer, it will be a smart object. Another check mark that I have to remove is that I have to rasterize that layer. Alright? Now, of course, any layer can be transformed to a smart object by right-clicking on it and say convert to smart object. But useless to now, just keep it the way it is. If you have it set, that means you're happy with it. But here I can, if I want to, convert to a smart object, press Ctrl T, T for transformation, so Ctrl T on my keyboard, and I can rescale it down without losing too much quality on my scaling because it is a smart object. Press enter, right click, and rasterize the layer again, making it properly resolute right there. That's it, it's just set. So I'm happy with the results. What I'm going to do here, rescale it. And rasterize. So now I'm going to start talking about some selection tools we used. In the first one, we talked about the rectangular marquee tool and the elliptical marquee tool. We also talked about the lasso tool and the polygonal lasso tool. Now, let's talk about the magnetic lasso tool, which to my opinion is not a very smart tool to use. The best tool would be the quick selection tool right here, which we're going to talk about in a second. So, what does the magnetic lasso tool do? In the name, magnetic means that it latches on to the actual colors. So, for an example, it understands that over here on my subject, on my picture, I have orange yellows over here, and here I have a blue. So when I click on my mouse, create the first dot, and move my mouse up, it's going to start snapping or sticking itself to the character itself. And how does it understand this? It knows that on my right side, there is orange, on my left side, there's blue. So I'm going to stay in the middle and just latch on to these colors as I go along. Now, once I get to the top here, I want to be able to continue my selection. What I do is press space on my keyboard, click on my left mouse button, and just move up. And now I can continue the selection. Space to move and continue my selection. So it's not very accurate, as you can see. So let me show you a more accurate way of doing this. So I'm going to click, press enter to finish the composition, and just move this shape, whatever. Control D to remove the selection. Now, for me, Magnetic Lasso tool is a very poor use of the actual software's capabilities. So, Quick Selection tool is the best tool right here. It uses the same technology that Magnetic Lasso tool understands, which is colors, and in the same time it understands selection at the most pixel-based RGB colors. So what happens here? I'm going to click and drag. First of all, just to understand how it works, if you look at the cursor, my cursor right here, it's a circle with a plus in the middle. To be able to scale up or down the actual scale of the brush, so this is technically a brush, I can press the brackets inside of my keyboard on my keyboard to make it grow and shrink. Now, the smaller this icon is, the more details it will capture. The bigger it is, the less details it will capture. And to understand exactly what it is, to scale up and down. So first of all, of course, you can scale it from here. So if my quick selection tool is activated, I can click on this tool right here and increase the size or decrease the size. Or on your keyboard, it is these brackets. It is the left bracket, the right bracket, sorry, to scale and the left bracket to scale down. Okay? So by using these keys on your keyboard, you're able to increase, so I'm pressing the right one right now, or decrease the left one like so. Alright? So I'm going to go back to my quick selection tool, and now we're going to select the subject. So by clicking and dragging, it's understanding the colors. Okay, I'm still in orange, great. I'm in now black, it's going to select all the black, the blues over here, and over here. Now what happened here? As you can see, it overshot the selection. So something very useful when I have my quick selection tool, if you look at my cursor, it's in plus, so it's adding to the selection. To remove from the selection, I can press Alt on my key or Option on your Macs. Okay, so by pressing and holding Alt, it's a minus right now. So I'm able to go here and press around it, and it will understand that I want to deselect these pieces that I selected before. Alright, allowing me to select the subject and remove it as he is. Now, something very nice in the new Photoshops, in the CC versions, I think 2017 and above, but I know this is version to 2020, and of course you have it, is that once you select the quick selection tool right here, I have over here something new called Select Subject. What this button will do is it will automatically try to determine what is the background and what is the foreground and where the subject lies between them. It's a very useful tool. So all I have to do is have my quick selection tool activated. I click on Select Subject, and automatically it will calculate that this is my subject. Press V on your keyboard to move it, and it will automatically grab it from the background. It's a very useful tool, and it's a very good tool to use. Okay, so these are the small little tools that you can use to understand how selection works inside of Photoshop. Now, my preference is I never use the lasso or polygonal lasso tool or magnetic. I always use the quick selection tool. It's so much more versatile, and you have much more details that you can go into. So by decreasing the brush size, I can go into very fine details around the hair, around all of these things. Alright, so I just wanted to explain a small little video on how to use selections. And in the next one, we're going to talk about how to enhance that selection by select and mask and refining small little edges. This little tool here, the select and mask, will allow me to do a lot of neat things like grab curly hair and removing them from the background. Or this little fluff right here on his hair and be able to remove that from the background. I want to be able to capture those details, not remove them. So right now it's just grabbing around the perimeter of the hair, but I want those little pieces. So in the next video we're going to be explaining how to refine our selection and how to understand masks. So thank you for joining me on this one. If you like this series, please like the video, subscribe, and if you want any other video, comment. And if you have any questions, please also write a comment, and I'll be more than happy to oblige by answering those. So thank you for following me so far, guys. Thank you, and I'll see you next one. Bye.